Underneath these vast grasslands of North America lives the single most important species of its ecosystem. They rule the prairie from the underground, building burrows for other species, fertilizing the land, and barking incessantly at documentary filmmakers. This is the prairie dog. Hi, I'm Danielle Dufault, and you're watching Animalogic. Right now, I'm standing in the middle of a gigantic prairie dog colony in Grasslands National Park, Saskatchewan. This park is home to a species called the black-tailed prairie dog, which can be found from the prairies of Canada down to the Chihuahua Desert of northern Mexico. You gotta be careful when you're checking out a prairie dog's hole. That sounds gross. Wow. Despite their name, prairie dogs are not, in fact, dogs, which becomes immediately clear as soon as you see one. They are, in fact, members of the Sciuridae family and are closely related to the chunky marmots, the adorable chipmunks, and the tree rats that destroy my bird feeder every year. But unlike your adorable and slightly terrifying neighborhood squirrels, these cuties live in the ground. It can get pretty hot where they live, so they've evolved a pretty neat trick: become a pancake. This behavior is known as splooting. They'll find a cold patch of ground and spread out their body to radiate their heat into it. It's this summer's coolest trend. There's one right in front of me. A prairie dog. Okay, he just squeaked and sounded the alarm to let his other prairie dog friends know that somebody's here who shouldn't be. Hi. Of course, I mean no harm. All around me, I can hear the calls of the prairie dogs as I walk through their colony, which is actually called a dog town, or as I like to call it, Squeakopolis. These calls are part of a highly complex and nuanced language. Prairie dog vocabulary is more advanced than any other animal language that scientists have been able to decode. But right now, I think they're just telling me to scram. They are literally on every single side of me. And it's interesting because as soon as one raises the alarm, that alarm spreads from one den to the next. You see one pop up from the hole, start screaming, and then other ones start popping up and screaming in tandem with them. And that kind of like travels down like a shockwave of sorts. It's very interesting. Alert calls are a big part of their vocabulary. And while to an untrained ear it all sounds like a dog's chew toy, they can actually get very descriptive. Oh my gosh, this colony is just making a racket. They're communicating among each other to let each other know what they're seeing. And all of those squeaks and chirps have very specific meanings. There are a lot of sounds, that's for sure. The massive colonies are made up of family units called coteries. The families usually consist of one breeding male, several females, as well as their pups. These sister wives will stick together their entire lives, while the males will move on and try to find other females to mate with every year. Typical. The families even have their own language, allowing them to tell kin from stranger. They don't just have cute sounds, they have a multitude of cute sounds. And they all mean something very specific. They've developed pretty much their own language. Despite their massive numbers, they only mate once a year in early winter, and females only enter estrus for a single hour. 1 hour! Once a year! She'll have a litter of 3 to 8 pups, and only half of them will survive their first year. These little families are super tight-knit, though they're not always very good neighbors. The males are super protective about their harem, and won't hesitate to try and bite any trespassers. There is also a theory that family units will call out to alert a predator to start a jump yip, what dogs would call a howl, and then quickly they'll shut up. So when the predator is closer, it's the other families that are making lots of noise and calling attention to themselves. Wherever you find large colonies of animals, you're also bound to find large amounts of their bones. So I just found a little lower jaw. See how deep it is back here? There's a lot of room for muscle attachment. And the more muscle you've got to work that jaw, the stronger your bite force is. I didn't just find a jaw, I also found a skull. Look at this beauty. You see these sharp incisors at the front? Yeah, you don't want to get bit by that. It could do a lot of damage. These incisors will keep on growing their entire lives because they need to keep using them every single day for every little thing. They don't just use them for eating, they also use it for maintenance. They keep their area as tidy as possible so they always have a clear vantage point. If you hadn't already guessed given the setting, black-tailed prairie dogs primarily eat grass. But they are opportunistic and will eat forbs, roots, sagebrush, and cacti, even insects given the chance. So this prairie dog spotted me, sounded an alarm, and then scampered off from that hole to the next one, hoping to lose me. The holes that they pop out of are part of a vast underground network of tunnels. The biggest dog town ever discovered was 64,000 square kilometers, which is just a bit larger than Manhattan. Oh my gosh, this prairie dog really knows how to pick a home. Right at the exit to his burrow, he's got this incredible view. Look at all that. Oh, I'm just gonna have a romantic sunset with my new friend, the prairie dog. These mega dog towns can be home to as many as 400 million prairie dogs at a time. But since their tunnel networks are so massive, a lot of other species use them for shelter. You definitely need to be cautious while approaching a prairie dog's den, because you never know what kind of animal might actually spring out of it. As a keystone species of the prairies, the burrows they dig serve as homes for all kinds of prairie dwellers, such as shorthorned lizards, burrowing owls, and swift foxes. These are just a few of the dangers that prairie dogs have to deal with. With such massive colonies, prairie dogs are the #1 source of food for many grassland predators. In fact, prairie dogs support at least 136 other species in the grasslands, which is nice for the 136 other species, but kinda sucks for the prairie dogs. Thanks for taking one for the team, little buddies. Their two advantages are that they can call out to alert their compatriots of danger, and they can escape through their massive, winding network of tunnels. It's sunset, and things are getting wild in the dog town. Right now, we're experiencing some of the incredible pressures that prairie dogs experience. There is a coyote out there scanning for its next meal, as well as a burrowing owl. Whew, don't envy these guys right now. Coyotes have been observed teaming up with badgers in order to hunt prairie dogs. Coyotes are built for speed, but they're too big to pursue their prey into tunnels. Badgers, on the other hand, are clunky runners but built for digging. And so they have formed a mutualistic relationship. The coyote will chase the prairie dogs on land, and when they run into a tunnel, the badger will be waiting inside, having gone in from the other side. Or, if the prairie dog is already underground, the badger will charge in to flush it out, where the coyote will be waiting. These prairie dogs are pretty much the cornerstone of the ecosystem here in Grasslands National Park. They play a role for just about every species out here. Because they are such an important prey species, when their numbers take a hit, it releases a wave through their habitat that has a profoundly negative impact on the species that rely on them to survive. Prairie dog numbers have gone down by 95% since Europeans arrived in North America. Part of this is due to the bubonic plague, brought to North America by rats on ships, which decimated prairie dog populations in the 1800s. Yet the plague still persists today, and when it hits a colony, it will wipe it off the map. The other big impact we've had on them is destroying their habitat to create farmland. Cattle outgraze prairie dogs, and quickly will eat all the food that would otherwise be consumed by the prairie dogs. As grazing competition for cattle and being potentially destructive for crops, many farmers have seen these prairie dogs as pests and have thus eradicated them from many of their natural ranges. As a result of all of this, the black-footed ferret, which is a species of ferret that has evolved to primarily eat prairie dogs, is endangered. They've tragically been extirpated from the park. Sadly, there's just not enough prairie dogs to go around anymore. Here in Grasslands National Park, despite the hundreds of prairie dogs that you see around me, there are still not enough to reintroduce the black-footed ferret into the park. But there are several ongoing conservation programs, and hopefully soon we will see a resurgence of the prairie dogs and the many endangered animals that rely on them. Oh, I heard the squeak, and I see him now. There's a prairie dog straight ahead of me. We'll approach cautiously, see how close we can get. Oh, they're so small and so sweet. They're like fuzzy baked potatoes. Oh, he sees me now. Curious though. This one's small and doesn't seem to have the black tip of the tail. I dare say it's actually a ground squirrel. Black-tailed prairie dogs share the park with the more northerly Richardson's ground squirrel, commonly called the prairie gopher. They can be tough to tell apart from a distance, as they are quite similar looking. But the ground squirrels are about half the size of the prairie dogs, and they lack their characteristic black-tipped tail. The females live in social groups made up of only their female kin. The males, on the other hand, do not socialize with anyone. As a result, they get into some pretty epic confrontations. Oh my gosh, I can see two tussling over here. I'm gonna try and catch up to them. Andres, can you see these guys tussling? Oh yeah, they're playing a game of tag or something. It's really bittersweet leaving this place. I'm very happy to see it thriving, but I am sad to leave it. Bye, Grasslands. Hope to see you again soon. So what should we talk about next? Please let me know in the comments and be sure to subscribe for new episodes every week. Thank you for watching and see ya! Don't ever tell me that the prairies are boring, or I will have to drag you here myself.